What is going on, everybody? First off, happy holidays to all. Merry Christmas or happy Hanukkah to whatever it is you celebrate. We had some time here today, so I figured let's talk about last night's Sixers game against the Clippers. And this was a game where I thoroughly enjoyed. A big win here for the Philadelphia 76ers as they take care of business against the Los Angeles Clippers in a 119 to 114 victory. And we talked about it beforehand, leading up to this game, that this was an important game in the seventh game homestand. The Sixers have been taking care of business, wins in a row in this homestand, feeling very comfortable. Things are starting to click chemistry wise. Obviously, you look at the six games that they did win before last night's win. You look at some of the opponents that they beat. You know, you had the Golden State Warriors, who were without Steph Curry, who were without Draymond Green, a Sacramento Kings team who were not ready for that position, even though they have been playing better. You play against the Pistons, you play against the Hornets. You blew a lead against the Raptors. So really, this game on Friday night was going to be the best opponent that they have seen at home. And although we want to feel good about this basketball team, and I always tell you guys that, listen, take these wins where you can because it is a long season. Friday was going to be a big test because you're going up against a formidable opponent with some quality players. I don't think I need to remind you guys who Kawhi Leonard is, but having Paul George. And when you watch this team, just the amount of shooters and ball handlers that this team has, it always presents issues against a team like the Philadelphia 76ers. And you got to give them credit. In this game, Sixers started off slow, and Kawhi Leonard, and by the way, since when have we called him the Claw? But regardless, behind Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers really dictated the pace of the game. Offensively, they really did everything that they wanted. They were knocking down their shots, even the mid-range stuff. They were finding ways to get to the paint as well. And the Sixers, really, the main issue in the first half was the intensity wasn't there. They didn't show up with that, and the Clippers were able to take advantage of that, and especially behind Kawhi Leonard, who seems like he was looking like he was knocking down every possible shot possible. But besides the intensity that was affecting on the defensive end, because the Clippers literally can make anything they wanted, but also affected on the offensive end because the physicality, the intensity against a team like the Clippers, you're going to need that, and it just wasn't there. And more importantly, the bench did not show up. You are expecting James Harden and Joel Embiid to carry this team against a team like the Clippers. I mean, you're not going to get very far. The Sixers bench only scored 4 points in the first half, and obviously that is just flat out not going to get it done. So when you're heading into halftime down 12 to the Los Angeles Clippers and you're doing everything possible, Doc at that point needs to find a way to light a fire under this team and needs to find a way to get his bench going as well. And I don't know what he did in that halftime, but he found a way to get the intensity out of the players because in the second half, the Sixers definitely came out ready to fire on all cylinders. They were knocking down their shots. They were playing very physical. They umped the ante, and the bench absolutely stepped up. George Niang knocking down some shots. Shake Milton getting free on some isos. Even Paul Reed. Paul Reed got some minutes here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. 5 minutes, but he definitely took advantage of his 5 minutes as he was able to get himself a little bit of a bucket. But between George's Niang, it really was what the Sixers needed coming off the bench, as both of those guys knocked down three threes between the two. But Shake Milton was 6 of 10 from the field, so he knocked down shots when need be. But really, in the second half especially, it was all Joel Embiid and James Harden. They really, really dictated the pace of this game. They put the team on their back. The pick and roll game, finally, it looked fluid. It looked good. The offense was rolling through them through a lot of the second half. And that is exactly what you wanted. The chemistry finally between James and Joel is perfect. It is absolutely perfect. They ran the pick and roll. You see James Harden knocking down a big three to force the Clippers to call a timeout. I think it was a three that made the game a 2-point game. Clippers call a timeout. You see Joel Embiid going up to James Harden. They're getting all fired up. They're getting all amped up. The crowd is going freaking wild. But seeing the moments when Joel and James are interacting, whether it be, communicating on what they're seeing on the court, or whether it be amping each other up, that crap gets me freaking going, guys. You have no idea. And, when we traded for James Harden, the one thing that I told you guys, what is going to make this team so dominant is the pick and roll game. The main gripe when Ben Simmons was here with Joel Embiid was it wasn't a match. Ben Simmons could not create a shot for himself, could not shoot. We all know that. And Joel needed a point guard who can create for himself but also create for others. And when that trade happened, all we could think about was how this pick and roll game could look like. It was going to be the most dangerous 1-2 punch since Shaq and Kobe. And finally, now I am starting to see it on a consistent basis against a good team like the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, look, Zubac, a good center. Not going to take anything away from him. I would personally put him maybe top 10, top 15 as far as centers go in this league. He's definitely in the upper half of the centers. A solid rim protector as well who got his thing done. But it was clear the Sixers were definitely trying to attack, and especially attack just the paint of the Los Angeles Clippers, especially second half. And with that said, finding other guys that are open. When James and Joel were knocking down their shots, they started to get double, triple teams. That's when everything else started opening up for DeAnthony Melton, for Tobias Harris, for Shake Milton, and for Georges Niang, who provided the spacing out on the court. And that has to be the name of the game. The ball fluidity has been so much better here for the Philadelphia 76ers, and that's something that we have been talking about every single night, as 31 total assists here for this Philadelphia 76ers to LA's 25. That's exactly what you want to see here by our Philadelphia 76ers. And of course, when that happens, when James and Joel are being able to dictate the offense, and you got double and triple teams, that leaves guys open out on the court, and that is why the wings are so important for this basketball team. That's why I always feel like we could always beef it up a little bit, because listen, love Toby, love DeAnthony, love Shake, love Georges Niang, but there are times where some of those players aren't as consistent. And it never hurts to have wing players. I mean, look at the Los Angeles Clippers. I mean, Norman Powell, Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard, Terrence Mann, Nicholas Batum. You have a bunch of guys who can ball handle, who can shoot, do the things that you need to do in today's day and age of the NBA. And so it never really hurts to have that. But between really just the mentality, and I don't know what Doc did. I really just don't know what Doc did, but the mentality definitely changed going in the second half, and things definitely changed between the intensity and just moving with a sense of urgency, moving with intention. And I think that that's really what the Sixers were able to do here so well. But behind James and Joel, it was really, really big. I know a lot of people saw Keith Pompey's article yesterday about the PJ Tucker contract. PJ Tucker again today, or last night, I should it's not a stat line to kind of write home about, but he's definitely in this homestand been a bigger piece offensively. The reason for PJ Tucker signing was for defense, for veteran leadership, for the playoffs. That type of stuff is going to be very important, but obviously his offensive game has been on high criticism. Keith Pompey put out an article and simply stating, which contract is worse, the PJ Tucker or the Al Horford? And I think for a lot of Sixers fans, I think Andrew Bynum was probably the worst acquisition we had, and I don't think any Sixers fan will argue that, but Al Horford is deemed as one of the worst contracts we've ever signed. And I do remember a lot of the slander that he got, and I don't think a lot of it was warranted. I do think that was just simply a move that Elton Brand is going to, he'd probably tell you today that he regrets and he probably shouldn't have made. It was a situation where the Sixers were desperate. Jimmy Butler leaves. They throw a bunch of money to Tobias Harris. They throw a bunch of money to Al Horford. J.J. Redick also left that offseason too. So losing Jimmy and J.J., two key clogs of that team that could have won a championship. And ironically, as it is, you're running into Kawhi Leonard on this night. But despite that fact, Al Horford just didn't fit. It's just Elton Brand's fault. I mean, there's no one else's fault besides that. You can't fault a player for wanting to make some money. I mean, you would have taken that contract. And when I remember that time, listen, I make fun of the Minnesota Timberwolves for a reason, because I learned my lesson here with my basketball team. Like Rudy Gobert and Karl Towns, really good players, but they're both almost the same. Karl Anthony may be able to space out the court a little bit more, but what do you need two big twin towers for? Look at the NBA. Look at all these stretch fours. You don't need a twin tower lineup. And during those teams with the Sixers in 2020, you had Al and Joel as your front court, or your center and your four. And then you had Ben Simmons as your point guard, who can't create a shot for himself. So the spacing was so off. I still to this day cannot believe we put out a lineup like that in the 2020s. It is absolutely hilarious. But despite the fact that I know that that article did raise a lot of eyebrows, did get a lot of people amped up. I do understand the premise of that type of article. I do understand why he's putting out that type of article. When you consider that those two contracts, you look at three separate things: the player's age, the amount of money that they signed for, and the years that they signed for. And when you look at both those players, both older players signed for years that probably was a little bit too much and signed for a little bit too much money. So that is the argument I can understand. But the fact of the matter is, PJ Tucker, first off, still really early on in his tenure, but you brought him in here for the playoffs. Al Horford, you brought in here because you were desperate and because you lost Jimmy Butler. So that's the reason for that. Obviously, Al Horford contract was worse. Flat out, there's no justifying it. You can justify the PJ Tucker move because this is something that you legitimately need. You didn't need Al Horford. More so, you brought him in here because of the name and also because he was the only guy that was stopping Joel Embiid at that time. So it was interesting. I don't know if Keith Pompey is putting out there as clickbait or he has. I mean, it's not a terrible argument, but obviously you're going to look at that and you're going to look at Al Horford being the worst contract of the two. But yeah, man. But back to Kawhi, man. That dude misses like what, year and a half, hasn't missed a step. He can make any god-forsaken shot on the basketball court, and it's freaking ridiculous. And you know damn well, come playoff time, everybody in their mama is gonna be sleeping on the Clippers. But this is a type of team that can go far, and especially if Kawhi Leonard stays healthy, they have gone to the Western Conference Finals without Kawhi Leonard. It's definitely, and Paul George comes back as well, drops 22 points in his return. Reggie Jackson, you already know what he can do from the backcourt. It's just a bunch of dudes who can make shots, and then you got Zubac who just does his thing under the rim, man. Marcus Morris Sr. They brought him in there. I can't believe the Morris twins are getting old. But it's just to me it's a very underrated roster. Obviously, health has a lot to do with what they're going to do going forward, but it is truly an entertaining roster, and this was a flat out a good win. And I will say this. I want to bring this point up because again, the Sixers had to come back and had to play from behind. We talked about the blown leads. I just don't really care for the way how Doc kind of handles it. Like we're not like I'm at least I'm not stupid. I know how the NBA works. I know it's a long season, and I know to expect a team to dominate every single game, night in and night out for 82 games. That is so far fetched. But one thing I will say, the way Doc kind of handles the blown leads, the comebacks, to me it just seems like he's a little bit too nonchalant about it. Like, we understand that leads get blown. We do get that. But you can't be like, well, it happened, so we'll just let it be. We're in the NBA. These things happen. No. You gotta stop. And the thing is that it wouldn't worry me if it wasn't a coach who didn't have a history of blowing leads. But Doc Rivers is literally known for blowing leads. So that's where I have my gripe, and that's where I have my issues of him taking it too nonchalant. We know that leads get blown. We know it's hard to play dominant basketball every single game for 82 games. But you also can't be so nonchalant about it and act like it's okay if that happens. No. What you're doing is you're inviting bad habits. Who am I? Right? Who am I? One thing I do want to bring up because, listen, there are times where I do like to go on Twitter because I do like to get the sense of the fan base. I saw Joel Embiid hate last night. And I'm like thinking to myself, like, dude, no one's stepping up. And the problem last night in the first half was, as a team as a whole, the intensity as a whole was bad. Guys, the fact of the matter is, Joel Embiid is a center in 2022. And we have to freaking talk about this over and over and over again. It's the fucking first quarter. Why are you worried about Joel Embiid hanging out on the three-point line? Centers do this. Oh, Zubac did this tonight. But here, this is why I want you guys to think outside the box. So what you're seeing is Joel Embiid hanging out at the three-point line, and you're seeing that as a problem because he's a 7'2", 280-pound guy, and the advantage would be under the basket. We get that. But here's what thinking outside the box will do for you. Okay, by Joel Embiid hanging out the 3-point line. Number one, we all know he can make a three, right? That's number one. Number two, the pick and roll game. Did you see in the first half how the Clippers moved around, were able to create walls that left guys open like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Reggie Jackson? Joel Embiid, by doing that, is able to get guys like D'Anthony Melton, James Harden, Shake Milton open by hanging out there. And oh, by the way, you know what that does? By attracting the attention over there, everybody has their eye on Joel Embiid. How many times we talk about Joel Embiid taking on double and triple teams? You know what that leaves? That leaves wide open lanes for guys to cut. That's why you guys have to think outside the damn box. It's the first quarter. And we have talked about it before. Come playoff time, when I need Joel Embiid to take over, yes, go find your spots under the rim. Go find your spots on those elbows on the foul line like he likes to make those little fadeaway jumpers. But we need to relax on the freaking criticizing Joel Embiid when we're down. It's not always on him. But who am I? Who am I? But, I mean, listen. The fact is, Joel Embiid finished with 44 points. He had himself 7 boards and 3 assists. He got you the damn points off of 30 attempts. And James Harden, he finished with 20 points, 21 assists. He tied Wilt Chamberlain. He tied Wilt. A single game record for assists in a single game. He ties Wilt Chamberlain. It's a historic night for James Harden. 2021, and he was literally, he actually did get the triple-double. I missed that. He got himself the triple-double, his 70th triple-double of his NBA career. That was a great night. It was a great night by both of those gentlemen there. One more point. I did notice, if you guys look here at the Los Angeles Clippers bench, I spy with my little eyes Robert Covington, ladies and gentlemen, Rocco. Somehow I missed it. I don't know when he left Portland, but he's now in LA and he's playing with the Clippers. Look, it's not that Robert Covington is trash now, which I know a lot of Sixers fans always thought he was trash. But, I mean, you look at their bench. Dude, Norman Powell, Luke Kennard, Nicholas Batum, Terrence Mann. Like, how's Rocco going to get some minutes from that? I'm just saying. One thing the Sixers team could beef up is the wings. Rocco, I would take a flyer. It really could not cost you that much to bring in Rocco for a bench piece. It definitely caught my eye, and it's definitely something that if I'm Daryl Morey, I would definitely look into, because you can never not have enough wing help, to say the least. I guess we should end off with talking about the viral situation. As we all know, we all saw, the young Sixers dancer does her little routine, and all of a sudden I don't even know what it was. I think it was just like one of those bobble costumes that you see people wear during events and shit like that. But guy comes out of this costume, dancer recognizes the guy. You got Franklin with the card, will you marry me? Dude is struggling getting out this costume, and the dude proposes to his girlfriend in center court. Listen, I'm going to put it this way. When I was a kid, I always had that dream. Like, proposing to my girlfriend at Lincoln Financial Field while after a touchdown, right? And as I got older and you start maturing, you think to yourself, like, wow, that is not a good look whatsoever. Now, no disrespect, right? You propose to how you want, man. It is your life. You live it how you want. There's no way in hell I'm going to propose at a sporting event. And I can tell you what, my girlfriend would definitely kill me as well. Obviously, everyone had a field day with them. Congratulations, right? Congratulations. I'm just not doing that. But, kudos to you guys. Obviously, we all got a nice little laugh. And obviously, it was a big moment here in this game as well. So, hey, maybe they helped us. Because think about it. That was around halftime. And then second half, Sixers kind of turned it on. So maybe they were our good luck charm on Friday night, on that freezing night. So we shall see. We might need to bring them back for the next game. All right, guys. So next up for the Sixers, as we know, Christmas Day at the Garden. Sixers versus Knicks. I'm excited for it. Knicks actually are not terrible this year. A little bit of a hot streak they've been going on as of late. So I'm intrigued and I'm excited for this matchup. I think we lost the earlier matchup in Philly, so this should be a fun one. I think we got the first one, 12 o'clock game, but we'll see what happens. We'll be recording right after that one as well, guys. That's gonna do it for today's Sixers game recap. Again, the Sixers on Friday night beat the Los Angeles Clippers 119 to 114, and we'll be off for Christmas Day. Knicks versus Sixers. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe for more Philly sports. Until next time, I go by the name of Parcero Philly, and I'm telling you guys, let's go Sixers. And go Birds. Dallas sucks. Talk to you guys.